Wholesaling, lease options, marketing mastermind. A big good morning to everyone. Gil here. Please let me know if you just joined us. You know the drill if you've been with us here before. The GoToWebinar control panel is open for any questions, feedback, clarifications, or violent reactions. We have several of you investors that have just got started with our marketing programs. Two of you, we are actually going to be handling majority of your telemarketing, cold calling your Craigslist leads, pre-screening your direct mail calls, and making follow-up calls on your pay-per-click campaigns. Now, registration emails were sent out to you, okay? And my office will be contacting you just to welcome you aboard and answer any initial questions that might not have been covered or addressed in the initial videos explaining the various marketing packages, okay? The most common question we get asked, especially when it comes to telemarketing and your direct mail campaigns, if we are partnering with you on those deals, or if you are going to do marketing in an area and using one of our acquisition managers to lock up the property, we will be providing a list for you in your direct mail campaigns, and you do not have to purchase that list, right? At the end of the day, we are going to either purchase the deal from you or co-wholesale it with one of our buyers. At the very least, it's going to be our acquisition manager who is going to meet with those sellers. Since you cannot meet with the sellers, or you may have extremely limited time or a hectic schedule. If you're already working a full-time job, then completely understandable. If a homeowner wants to meet at 10 the following day and you can't do it, don't worry, that's what our acquisition managers, our local guys are for. They will go out, meet with the homeowner, and get the property locked up, right? So the list is provided for you at no additional cost. Now, if you want to do direct mail in other territories, let's say you want to wholesale in another area, then go ahead and provide us with the mailing list, and that way we can get your direct mail ordered and send it out on your behalf. Okay, so just want to clarify that the list is at no extra cost, especially if we are going to be partnering with you on those deals, or if you are using one of our local acquisition managers. Now, if the audio is coming out good for everybody, please go ahead and confirm. On today's session, we have Eric, Mr. Eric Infinite Torrente himself. He is a wholesaler, a flipper, based out of the New York market. Just depends on where in the United States he is currently at. The guy tends to hop around in between different markets, which is pretty cool. Eric, go ahead and do a mic and audio test here for everyone in the group again, just to make sure everybody can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead. Test, test, mic test. You are on a self-mute, by the way. Now you're good.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Hold on, one. Test, test.
Test 1, 2. Can you hear me good?
It's a little bit choppy. Let's give it a second for the internet to refresh.
Hello?
Yeah, there we go. Do another round. Test, test, mic test.
Can
Go
you
ahead.
hear me?
A little bit. It's a little choppy. Try one more time.
1, 2. How? A little choppy. I could try to recollect it if you want.
Nope. Nope. You're good. I think the internet just had to refresh since we unmuted you. So it looks like we can hear you loud and clear. Let me touch base here with Mr. Steve Clutch. Steve, can you hear Eric?
I just heard the initial one. I just stepped back in the room.
Awesome. All right. So Eric, looks like we can hear you. Okay, I'll mute Steve. He's got some speakers playing in the background for the audio. That way we don't get the pushback. But welcome this morning. And to any of our other panelists and veterans and contributors on these sessions, for those of you that have questions for Eric, I know you have very curious about how he does his virtual wholesale deals. That's what he's here on this session for, to share what's working for him, deals that he's done in the past, and stuff that he's got working on in the pipeline. As always, we'll throw a couple curveball questions, some fun stuff, about whether it's Eric's business, part-time stuff, fun stuff, and good resources and tools as well, right? So, Eric, how are things going on your end this morning?
Everything's great. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, no, thank you for jumping on. I know you obviously you've got a really busy schedule. You're wholesaling in multiple markets. What's the latest going on your end? Are you back in New York? Let's use that as a launch pad and segue into the questions we've emailed to
Sure.
you and start taking on some questions from the rest of the group here. So where are you these days?
Yeah, I'm in New York right now. That's where I am.
Got it. Now, are you based in New York for most of the year? Where are you originally from?
I am from New York, and I started real estate virtually from the very beginning. Uh, I basically was looking into the New York market for real estate, and my first mentor I met here, he was doing real estate in Philadelphia. So
Oh,
I started in Pennsylvania because houses were a lot cheaper there. There were a lot more vacant houses. There was just a lot more going on. So I started, like I said, from the beginning virtually.
okay. So you started doing deals virtually. Now, why did you choose to do deals virtually? Was it because your mentor or the person that you started doing deals with was doing it virtually? Was it due to marketing budget? What were the main reasons behind starting out in a virtual territory?
Right. Good question. You know, my first mentor, he was from New York and he moved to Pennsylvania. At the time, I had just read Rich Dad Poor Dad and, you know, all of his series. And I really was interested in getting cash flow. So he was cash flowing 10 rentals in Philadelphia, and he did it in a very short period of time. Uh, I kind of came in at the end of after he got all his deals done in this particular area, and it started getting flooded with a lot of investors. But there was still wholesaling going on, and I kind of learned about wholesaling because it was going on over there. I didn't even know what wholesaling was when I first looked into real estate. I thought I just wanted to be a landlord, uh, but I learned about it from my first mentor. He didn't even call it wholesaling at the time. He was just explaining that he could fund the deal if I find the deal. I later, from looking around on the internet and talking to other people in the market, I learned about wholesaling, and then I found out about the Preston Eli's, the Kenny Rushings, and people like that. And I basically was following people I was looking up to. So I first followed my mentor in Pennsylvania, then I started following Preston Eli and Kenny Rushing. I went to a seminar out there in Florida, and then I started Florida. So those were my first two main markets back in 2011, and
Mm-hmm.
then I started branching out on my own.
Okay, so when did you get started in real estate? What year was that?
Well, I started in 2010. It took me over a year to get my first deal, but I got my first deal done in 2011, and then
Okay,
got more consistent after that. I wasn't even doing direct mail at the time. Well, I was, but very little. You know, just like vacant
got it.
houses. I was walking for dollars in Philadelphia. I actually started out not really virtual in the sense of being in New York, but I used to travel to Philadelphia, write down a bunch of vacant houses, come back and then skip trace these people and send them letters. That's what my mentor had me doing. I didn't even know about lists at the time or big direct mail campaigns until I started learning about Chris Chico and people like that. So yeah, when I first started, I was doing it the hard way. So
So you got
then
started
I
back
changed
in
that
real
up.
estate in 2010. You found a local mentor to start working with. How did you find this local real estate mentor? Because everybody has a different way they've, got started in real estate. Some people came across a
Right.
course. Some people went to the RIA groups. How did you find your first mentor
Right.
in real estate that showed you the ropes?
Actually, similar to like what you run in Cali, I went to a cash flow meetup group here in New York, and I was really, like I said, I really thought I wanted to be a landlord, or really wanted to get these cash flowing properties. So I was hanging around with a bunch of people who were involved in real estate and basically at this meetup. And the guy I met, who was my first mentor, I met him at that meetup. He just happened to not be doing real estate in New York. He was doing it in Pennsylvania.
Okay, and at the time you weren't even. Now, if somebody came across what you do these days, what's your elevator pitch? Like, how do you explain what you do? Do you even mention virtual wholesaling for everybody that's brand new in real estate? Because we have a lot of new people that just picked up their first
Right.
book on real estate or are just getting started.
Right.
What's your elevator pitch, and what's the whole how do you explain virtual wholesaling and what you do?
That's a good question. I never really thought about it in that way, but if I had to explain it, I would just explain that I, you know, get properties for low money down in several markets, and I flip them for a profit with no risk.
Now,
And
on
if people
any
ask
of.
me how,
Sorry, go ahead, Eric. Go ahead.
no, if I said if people ask me how I did that, then I would go into more detail. But I mean, pretty much that's the concept. Just same as wholesaling locally. Just I just happen to do it in other markets, and I leverage to be able to do that.
Got it. I don't know. Are you guys getting that pushback on the audio? Because sometimes it starts to break up here on my end. I don't know if it's just me. Steve, are you getting the breakup in the audio, or is it coming out loud and clear? At least Eric's audio.
It, it's it's good. Yeah, I hear it, but it's okay.
Sorry, what's that?
He said he hears me. Am I-
Yeah, I can hear him. At the end of his sentences, it cuts off a little bit, but it's okay.
It's okay? All right, perfect.
I
Thanks.
get what he's saying. Yeah.
All right, give me a heads up if it's not. We might just have to bring him in on the conference call line so we can we get a good recording of the actual audio. Eric, now with the deals that you're doing, right? So you got started in real estate with a mentor. You started doing it virtually in other markets. What's the marketing that's working for you these days? What are your top three marketing sources for leads and deals?
Uh, I really do direct mail, different channels of direct mail. I love multiple sources of motivation, so I have kind of a unique way of doing that. I have a software from the post office where I can verify what's vacant, and I will take a list of, say, tax defaults or evictions or out-of-state absentee owners, and I'll find out what's vacant on those lists, and I market to those. So I try to look for multiple sources of motivation. So my top three would be that, out-of-state absentee, uh, evictions, tax default. I would also put probate in there. That's four, but
So
somewhere
absentee,
between. Yeah, out-of-state absentee and vacant.
vacant. Okay.
Right. Out-of-state absentee with any one of those is always great, but also evictions, tax defaults, plus vacant
And you also do a
and
little bit of
probate.
probate. You mentioned, right?
Yeah, I would say that's kind of like four, but I alternate between evictions and probates. So
Mm-hmm.
those vary because are not always huge lists for me. But yeah, those would be my top
Now, so direct
for
mail. Are
direct
you
mail.
doing any online marketing at all? Do you just focus on direct mail in your virtual markets?
I do some online marketing, not a lot. I don't do any pay per click as of yet, or Google AdWords. I have Squeeze Page. I do Craigslist and some of the sites like that, and post around. I have my virtual assistant post, and I have gotten deals that way. And I do some texting and email via Craigslist, but I have not gotten into the pay per click AdWords stuff yet.
Okay. Now, in direct mail, do you prefer letters or postcards? How do you structure your campaigns? What do you like to start your direct mails with? Is it a yellow letter followed by a postcard, or do you open a campaign with postcards and then change it up to yellow letters?
I'm experimenting now, but I in general just love a lot of postcards only because it's cheaper and I can get twice as much mail out. So I feel like if they are motivated, they're going to call. So I've been starting to do twice a month with postcards, but actually this month I'm doing some letters. I'm doing 2,000 letters to experiment, just see the response. But I've really been doing just postcards, anywhere from 7 to 8,000 each mail.
Are you using a local printer for your postcards? Do you have an online vendor that you can recommend as a good go-to or a resource for your postcard campaigns?
Yeah, I use YoLetters.com. They're pretty good, and I use my own template, custom template. What I like about them is they're very cool with helping you customize, or at least they were when I was doing mine, and they're the cheapest. So
So you
yeah, I use
use your
YoLetters.com.
Okay. So you're doing postcards is what you prefer to send out, more bang for your buck, right? You get twice as much mail out. You do twice a month mailing. Are you sending mail month after month? Do you send it every quarter, every 2 months? What's the frequency of your mailing campaigns like?
Right, I was really just doing once a month, like a big drop, once
Mhm.
a month, but I just started doing it twice a month. So yeah, I'm turning it up, as you would say. But yeah, I'm also trying letters, like I said, because actually there's a couple markets where I haven't had a great response. Cali being one of them, where it seems to be like the people in the higher income brackets don't necessarily respond to postcards. So I'm gonna try campaign with letters there, and a couple others, just to see what I get. But yeah, I like doing postcards. In general, I think for the majority of markets I do, it's great, and I get a big response. But yeah, certain markets there's been a lower response rate, so I'm going to experiment with letters.
Okay, so you're going to start to test out some yellow letter marketing, and you're doing this every month for your marketing, or do you send it
Yes,
every
every
two?
every month, but I'm starting to do every 2 weeks now. That usually keeps me pretty busy. You know, even once a month keeps me busy, but I'm trying to have more leads, and I'm using Pat Live now to help me answer calls. So I'm turning up the volume along with using that.
Got it. Now, are you taking all of your calls live? Do you prefer that they go to a voicemail? What system has been working
Oh,
well
I
for
lost you.
you? Test, test. Can you hear me? Okay.
Well, I really used to just do everything going to voice. I
Voicemail.
hear you. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yes, yes, we're good. So, voicemail system,
Hello?
right? Yes.
Yeah, I used to do just voicemail. Yeah, I used to do it that way. I'm starting to try out Pat Live, so
Hmm.
that's new. I really just started with them at the beginning of this month, and I
Now,
started in one market, and I'm trying more markets with them. So I like the fact that they can do legwork.
now with the voicemail system, are you using a lengthy voicemail system? Are you
Hey,
using
are
a
we breaking up?
simple? I think we're okay. I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you good.
Okay, perfect. So on your
Yeah, as
voicemail
far as my
system,
voicemail, I do a short
hmm
voicemail, just the name
okay.
of my company, how you reach everything from info. Can you
All
hear me?
right, let me call you. Eric,
I feel
let's do
like you're
this.
not hearing me. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you. I think there's a bit of a delay. Let's do this. Keep your phone handy, and I'm going to try to bring you in on a conference call line,
You want me
and then
to
let's
call
see if
back?
the. Yeah, I'll just call you right now. Let's see if that'll work better. Give us a second, guys. I think audio wise, I personally am having a very hard time catching some of the audio. So if you guys are hearing everything okay, that is awesome. We're going to try to improve the audio here in a second. Let me see if we can just bring them in via our conference call line. 1 second. Welcome to those that just joined. If you are just joining the session, we are on the phone here with Mr. Eric Torrente, a virtual wholesaler, lives in New York, flips properties in other markets and territories. On this session, we're going to be picking his brain here on what's working for him as a virtual wholesaler and some of the success stories and challenges that he's faced, both in starting out. I don't know if you guys caught this. If you just joined, maybe you did miss it. But Eric did share candidly, it took him a full year before he did his first deal. So for some people, you can do a deal in 30 days. For others, it may take longer. Now, the biggest difference in situations or turnaround times or the quickest way to do your deal really comes down to your marketing. Whether you make a lot of cold calls or you send a lot of direct mail, it all will come down to your marketing in order to get to your first transaction and deal. We've had students and investors that are able to do deal within 7 days of starting one of our marketing programs, and some take much longer, right? But if you take a look at the situation, normally it comes down to those two things. Number one is the marketing, and two, following up and calling on the leads in a timely manner, right? Most investors tend to have about 50, 60 uncalled or leads in their inbox, and so processing tends to become the concern at that point. So let me see if we can get Eric here. I'm going to switch my audio. You will lose me here for a minute or so, and let me get Eric on the conference call line instead.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound. The access code you entered is invalid. You entered 657. Please re-enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign. To enable audio controls, please enter your audio PIN followed.
Test, test. You guys should be able to hear me clearly now. And let me bring in Eric on the line. While I do that, if you guys can confirm my audio via the GoToWebinar control panel. And let's get Eric back on the session here via the conference call. I'm about to sneeze. You want to cover your ears? Nope, false alarm. You're okay. One second, 1 second. Yep, I hear you. Thanks for the confirmation there, Scott.
Hello?
All right, I can hear you much, much better now, Eric, and everybody should as well. Let me just get some confirmations here. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Perfect. So let's pick up right back where we left off there. So on your voicemail system, you use a short voicemail. So it sounds like you use a simple voicemail as opposed to the lengthy Chris Chico type of voicemail.
Yeah, I just use a regular voicemail, but I just make sure that I say to please leave the address of the house they're calling about. But I just leave a regular message. Hi, this is Eric with Infinite House Solutions. Please leave your name, number, and the address of the house you're calling in reference to after the tone, something like that.
Okay.
So that gives me their name, their contact, and the address.
Now, how soon do you process and get back to your leads? Because for me in my business, we have to get back to people within 24 hours max in our really competitive areas. In the Midwest, we'll have about an extra couple of days before we can call people back, and they tend to lose motivation, or we can't get them on the phone. How quickly do you process your leads in your business?
As fast as I can, really. The same day if possible. but it might be next day. It all depends.
Okay, so next day at the very latest, it sounds like you do it next day, right?
Yeah.
Is it next day at the latest?
Yeah, next day at the latest.
Got it. Got it. Now, do you make your own calls yourself, or do you have somebody else call on your leads and do your initial pre-screening?
Well, I've tried that in the past. I had a VA helping me out, and it didn't work out. So I do it myself. Like I said, I'm trying now with Pat Live, so I'm doing live answering to do the pre-screening. So that's working out okay. But I still do have my voicemail in certain markets. So I'm gradually expanding to use Pat Live to, eventually answer calls in all my markets.
When you call on these homeowners, because you're doing them again virtually, you send mail in different markets. Right. Is it a concern for the homeowner that you are not local in the area? Do you even mention that you're not local in the area where you're sending your direct mail in?
No, I don't mention it, and I always have a local number on my postcard, and I very often have local addresses as well. Like if I partner up with someone, I'll use their address, and I don't mention it. Occasionally, they ask me. I mean, I do tell them eventually, that I partner with somebody on the ground, or I have my team on the ground, depending if I'm doing it all by myself, and I just have somebody doing the groundwork, and I'm the only one on the contract. But it's never really an issue. As long as I explain, what's going on, I usually feel comfortable with it.
Okay. Now, how do you explain, or so if it does pop up, right, do you let them know that you'll send somebody out locally to the property, or do you just do business with them virtually and then email these contracts out?
I've been doing it different ways. I mean, I like to get a signed contract before I send anybody anywhere. But occasionally, if they really want to meet, I'll have somebody meet them. But I do explain that I'll have someone on the ground doing the inspection, etc. But I try to get a signed contract, everything virtually first. Of course, there'll be some people who will say, I don't want to do that. I want to meet you. And in those situations, I just have somebody on the ground go handle it. But that's far few in between.
Now, with the closing, how do you guys handle closing? Which title and escrow? Do you have somebody locally that does that? Or do you have somebody in the area you're doing a deal in handle title and escrow? How are you able to close these deals virtually?
Yeah, I use a different local title company for every market. It all depends. So that's the way I do it. I mean, I've got referrals to get those title companies usually. And, I just make sure, as long as they can do what I need to get done, it's never an issue.
Now, you get referrals from other investors in that territory, right? Which is a smart way as opposed to, right, having a Google title and escrow. And that's one way to do it. I mean, just Google title and escrow in the market you're doing deals in. But obviously, if you get a referral for an investor-friendly title and escrow company, then ideally you can streamline your operations, and it's easier to deal with since you don't have to explain what an assignment is, what a concurrent close is, or if they need to move quickly on a deal. So using different local title companies, so all of this is handled electronically? They just email you the paperwork, or overnight the paperwork to you wherever you're located so that you can sign off and do the deal?
Yeah, and I'm usually just doing assignments, so I can usually do everything through email. It's never really an issue.
Nice.
I've actually never done a double close yet. I always find a way to assign it.
That was actually going to be my next question. Are you what type of closing strategy or technique do you use? So you just do an assignment on any of these deals?
Yeah, I do assignments. I do. That's right. I mean, I've closed on one property that I've closed in a land trust, but I usually just do assignments.
On these wholesale deals, you don't have to give us an exact number, maybe just a ballpark range, right? What are the wholesaling fees averaging in the territories you're doing deals in?
They vary. I mean, to be honest, they average from 5 to 10K in general, but occasionally they're more. 12 to 15, and it really all depends. I haven't done any super crazy deals like you have done with those 92K spreads, but I do have one. It's actually a package of two rentals right now, where the spread is looking like a 30 to 40K spread. So
Okay.
that should be sweet.
Nice.
But yeah, on average, anywhere from 5 to 15, I would say overall.
Nice. Now, assignment fee 5 to 10K. You're not using the double close. You're not using a concurrent close. The next question the people are asking: who are the buyers that you're dealing with? Is this the same buyer in all your virtual territories? Because that's one of the challenges when you're doing these deals virtually, right? Is dealing with the right cash buyer. If you're not dealing with the right cash buyer, they tend to nitpick your wholesale fee. Even though they're making 30-40% profit margins as a rehabber, they still can't get over the fact that you're making 5 to 10,000 when they're still making majority of the money, right? So who are the buyers you're dealing with on these types of deals?
And it really is usually different for every market. But if it's a new buyer, I don't show them what I'm going to make. I just make sure they're cool with the price, and I send them an assignment that doesn't show my fee. Obviously after you build some rapport, some trust, they realize they want to come to you for deals, and it's a repeat buyer. They usually don't care that they're paying you because they know that you're going to bring great deals. But if the trust is not there yet, I just keep everything with smoke and mirrors.
Now, with these buyers, are you dealing with hundreds of cash buyers and investor buyers? Do you have, just the 3 to 5 in each market you're doing deals with? Because there is a misconception that you have to have hundreds of buyers on your list in order for you to wholesale a property quickly. What's it look like in your operation, realistically, with regards to the number of buyers you do business with?
I'll be honest. It varies. I don't have hundreds of buyers, that's for sure. It really varies. Sometimes you have a one-time buyer who they just buy, and sometimes you have repeat buyers. But in general, I market to tons of buyers. For sure. I do a direct mail campaign to cash buyers in the zip. Which usually from 100 to 200 cash buyers. And then I also blast stuff out online using sellclick.com, but you'll send it, all over Trulia, all those sites, Kijiji, Backpage, etc. So I do get buyers from online and from direct mail. And, every campaign I may get, say, 30 to 50 buyers. But out of those, the people who actually perform is usually 10 to 20 who are really ready to go, or less. So it really varies. But I prefer to work with a repeat buyer. I think it's definitely a misconception. I have one buyer in Florida. I've done most of my deals with one particular buyer just because, they keep on buying. I'd rather work with a buyer like that where I have trust, and at that point, you can even send them to the property if you need to, and not worry about it because you have that relationship. So I like building those kind of long-term relationships, but it doesn't always work out that way.
How do you explain your wholesaling fees to a new buyer, Eric? Because a lot of our members, I don't know, they tend to be ashamed or a little bit shy, right? In the wholesaling fees or the assignment fees that they charge. So how do you explain why you are making X amount of dollars on a deal to a new buyer that you're working with? Maybe you have to educate some of these buyers. You know their quality. You've done some research on them. How do you address that objection?
Right. Well, I mean, I don't get that objection often, but if someone wants to know what wholesaling is, or how do I have the right to do this, or et cetera, I basically just explain that I'm an investor, and we have different exit strategies, and this is one of the strategies. I make it a great deal for you. I don't tell them how much I'm making. If they ask me those kind of questions, I kind of rule them out. I just want to know, if they want the property or not, and if they're ready to go. we could go at that price. And if they don't, then I walk, because at the end of the day, if they can't recognize a good deal, I feel like it's their loss. So I really just try to explain it in a very clear way that I'm an investor and, I can close on this, but I'm signing my contract, as a way to make a small profit versus a bigger profit, and the advantages to them. I went through the process of marketing, I went through the process of negotiating, and now all they have to do is close.
Okay. Now, do you meet any of your cash buyers, or you're doing this virtually as well, all over the phone, all in email correspondence?
I have met a couple in Florida. I think that's the only place I've met my buyers in person, because I go there pretty often. And, like I said, I have one repeat buyer who, I've been to their office and I've hung out with them, and we're cool. And, a couple others where I've shown the property in person when I happen to, be in the market and working on a deal. But in general, no. There's many markets I haven't met the buyer, and, often when I'm partnering with other people, I don't even talk to the buyer at all. So it really varies. I think in the long run, it's always good to, have that rapport with your own buyers. But it really all depends how the deal is set up or how the operation is set up in that market.
Nice.
But it's good to build that rapport. It's definitely good to market for your own buyers as well. I would say never do it just one way where you only rely on other people. Separate that and also do your own thing. Do both.
Now, do you launch somebody here's asking, do you launch your marketing campaigns for your sellers at the same time you launch a cash buyer direct mail campaign, or do you send one out before the other? What's the sequence and order there?
Yeah, I always do sellers first. Once I have a deal, I market that deal, and I usually do a very targeted direct mail campaign to that zip code. Kind of like the drunken letter, where it makes you look like a motivated seller. And I market after I get the property. I also do other ways. I'll put it online. I've also put properties on the MLS and found buyers that way, and then have to pay an agent, a small fee, and they bring the buyer.
Got it. Searching cash transactions. Steve here is asking, any recommendations? You don't have to give the exact one. I mean, obviously we all, but any recommendations where you buy your list, or you've heard good feedback on the quality of the list? Now, before you answer that, I do want to set the expectation with everybody in the group. Most of the direct mail sources that we're all buying from the same sources, right? More or less, there really isn't any magic or particular secret sauce. What works is sending it out consistently. So I just want to make sure we're all clear on the same page there. But what are the direct mail listing services that you have had good experience with from a deal return on investment standpoint and a quality, in terms of quality and customer service standpoint?
Well, I'll just say first off that I sell my own list because I make custom lists. So if anybody needs a list, you can always hit me up at flipthisrealestatelists.com. And, I've always had good feedback with people I've sold lists to. But as far as other services, pretty much, there's the regular ones out there. And I get, the same from the same source. I can't disclose everything, though. But I'll just say that as far as lists, I like hitting up a lot of different lists. And also, you can get a lot of things for free online from your county. I would say, don't forget about trying to get your county's code violations. A lot of times you can get those online. You can get tax defaults very often online. So I would say one of the best sources is really directly from the county, if you can. And one of the shortcuts is you can always come see me, because I have a lot of those lists available. But I love all kind of lists. I experiment a lot with different things, from quick claim, divorce, tax default, probate, estate sales, and I try to, alternate between these things.
How often do you pull a new list? I mean, I don't have to buy a new list every month. Then again, that's my situation and the operations in the markets that I'm in. How often
Right.
do you? How long do you use a list that you've just purchased?
It depends on the list. It depends on the list. If it's probate, I'll use that same list for a while, maybe 6 months to even a year. Mailing the same people. Uh, if it's eviction, maybe not as long. I don't have like one particular amount of months that everything goes, but I just, you know, I try to alternate my campaigns and repeat. And certain things I'll always repeat, and certain things I won't, depending on the response. But I would say I use the same list pretty often. What I do is I verify the deliverability, make sure that it gets delivered. I mean, that's a service that I offer as well with my list. Is I can verify if it will be delivered. It's not 90% accurate, but like for example, when I first started with a lot of vacant properties, one of the problems I was having was there's a lot of return mail. So I found a way around that, and that really helped. So my main thing is that the people are getting the mail. As long as they're getting the mail, I'll keep mailing them. So I try to scrub them, scrub the return mails or scrub the stuff that are just recently sold, and I'll keep the target properties there though.
Got it. Now, a couple of our subscribers and people on these sessions, we've recommended your listing service before, or that you do have access to these unique lists and have purchased lists from you. Toya here says, I've purchased a list from Eric for a virtual market, and it's great. What's the email for you, Eric, so that if we have members who are inquiring about purchasing a list or shopping around, how do they contact you for those listing services?
Sure, you can contact me at flipthisrealestatelyst@gmail.com.
flipthisrealestatelyst@gmail.com. I'm copying it in the notes here, guys. And that is for those of you that are interested or shopping around for lists. Let's say you are using ListSource and you've consistently mailed out to ListSource. You now need additional and new lists, right? Now's the time for you to start shopping around and adding other sources of lists or leads. Eric's got access to stuff like divorce. What are some of the other unique lists that you're working with, Eric, which you can't really find with most list vendors?
Right. Quitclaim deeds, divorce, estate sales, tax default, probate. What else?
Code violations,
Evictions.
defaults. You also have access to divorce, you mentioned?
Divorce, evictions. I don't sell the code violation list. That's one list I don't sell. But I do have a bunch of others. If you go to my site, there's a list of everything I have. It's flipthisrealestatelyst.com, and you can see the list of what I have.
Awesome.
But the main ones that I use are eviction, divorce, probate, tax default, estate sales, quitclaim, and combined with absentee and out-of-state absentee.
So it's flipthisrealestate.com?
flipthisrealestatelyst.com. I'm updating my site, so bear with its raw appearance, but you will see the list of lists that I sell.
Nice. All right, cool. So I just sent that to everybody in the group. Please confirm if you can check it in the GoToWebinar control panel. Shared Eric's link there for those of you that are shopping around for new lists that you can add to your mailing campaign. Please take note. I mean, there's definitely some golden nuggets that Eric talked about there. One, doing deals virtually. Most people think that you have to be local in a territory to do a deal. That's not the case. Eric, how many markets are you doing deals in virtually? Is it about 2, 3, 5?
How many markets total?
Yes. Are you doing deals virtually?
I'm in 6 markets, but I'm trying to break it to 2 more. But I've currently done deals in 6 markets myself.
Now, when you first got started out, did you jump into 6 markets? Did you focus on one? How do you execute or work your way up to 6 real estate markets?
No, I focused on one, to be honest. Well, first I was doing two. I mean, I started with one, then it was two, and then I ended up kind of leaving one particular market alone. I really just focused on Florida for a while. I built it up by partnering, to be honest. The only way I'm able to do this is by partnering. So there's really just one market that I'm doing a lot of stuff myself, and the other ones I'm leveraging partnering with a lot of people. So we kind of split up the work.
So when you partner with other investors, and this is a strategy that I highly recommend for somebody that's just getting started out, is when you get started out, focus on learning how to talk to sellers or the marketing side of the business. Most of us that are actively wholesaling consistently month after month, there's a common denominator. It's that we all picked a marketing channel or we mastered a certain lead source or list source. For me, it was generating leads online and direct mail. For Eric, he mastered where to pull lists and the different type of lists that you can get a hold of for your business, since he's doing all his deals, majority of his deals, virtually in 6 different territories. So he's pulling lists and he's marketing to these people that aren't necessarily available, or what a lot of investors are not currently tapping or marketing there in their business, like the lists like divorce and evictions in the particular markets and areas. What's the biggest objection you get from the sellers that you market to, Eric? Because it doesn't sound like they're really concerned of where you're based locally. So what's the number one objection that you get with your motivated sellers campaigns?
The number one objection I get is price. I don't know if you would consider that an objection, but I just have people who just have unrealistic prices or prices that I can't make work. So, I have different ways of overcoming that objection, and if I can't overcome that objection, I'll revisit them later.
Now, are you
or present something creative?
How are you doing your offers?
A creative option.
Okay.
Okay,
So if
sorry
not a
about
cash price, what's the backup offer that you will present to the owner? How do you keep them interested in doing business with you?
Well, if they can't do a wholesale price, I then propose rent to own, or depending if they have a mortgage, maybe subject to, or a lease option. So I always present those as I say I could give you your full price, but on these terms. And I actually recently just did a subject to deal where that worked out. But if that doesn't work out, I'll just say, well, just keep my number and I'll check back with you. I'm very friendly and say, if anything changes, just please call me. And I just kind of leave it on a good note. And people do come around. You'd be surprised how things change. I just had someone drop their price $9,000. They actually contacted me. It's maybe been 4 months later, and they just contacted me, telling me they want to drop their price. So it's always good to be nice to people, and keep that rapport. So that way, down the line when things might change, or they might need the money, that they'll have you in mind.
Now, you mentioned something in there, and I wanted to highlight that. What's the longest you've had to follow up with a seller? Or let's say you talked to them several months ago, you didn't think it was a deal, but they've come back to you, or you just happened to call them back a few months later on. What's the longest time frame that you've had a seller had a change of heart and do a cash deal with you?
I think a year. I've had a few that have come around about a year later. So, don't throw away those leads. You never know. As long as they're friendly. There's some people who, they're really rude, and they don't want you on their list, or they're gonna threaten to call the police. Like, those people have to go off the list. But as long as they're friendly and they do want to sell, but it's just at a price that I know that doesn't work, I keep them on the list. Or other times there are other issues that could hold things up, like a title issue. I have one right now that's a probate that has been held up for 3 months just due to the fact that they're dealing with the probate, and so ways of protecting their assets, so when they sell, they don't lose that money. So you just got to keep following up. It could be taxes. Sometimes there's a tax issue that builds up, and they don't pay their taxes, and they want a price, and then their tax bill is way bigger later. So I just say, as long as you have a good rapport and they do want to sell or they're interested in selling in the future, I say just keep them on their follow list.
Okay. Now, so you've had sellers, come back to you a year later, or you call them back a year later, you follow up somehow, and they've decided to do a deal with you. When you drop direct mail, what type of turnaround time? What's the quickest? What's your goal when you send your direct mail? How quickly have you been able to do a deal? What's the fastest turnaround time on your direct mail campaigns to do a wholesale deal?
The fastest, probably less than 30 days. I've had a few where right away they want to sell and I have a buyer ready. I don't know the exact day, but off the top of my head.
Somebody is asking, do you negotiate or talk numbers on the first phone call with the sellers? Because you talk a lot about building rapport, creating a good relationship. Does that include talking numbers on the initial phone call?
It honestly depends how well I know the market. If I'm just starting in the market and I don't know the market that well, I said, well, let me review the comps and get back with you so I can actually have an educated discussion. If I already know the market and, I already know the comps, or I can pull up the comps and evaluate it really quickly, and I know what my buyers will pay, et cetera, I'll do that on that first phone call. But I would say if you're just starting out, and you're unsure, wait till that second conversation where you can talk to Gil or, review the comps with a realtor and really understand the value before you have that conversation. But I think as long as you understand the value and you can justify it, there's nothing wrong with having that in the first conversation.
Now, when you keep a seller on ice or you say, hey, let me get back to you, what are your transition lines? How do you explain why you can't talk numbers at the moment or why you can't give them a number right away? Because some people are very intimidated by that and they feel the pressure of having to give a number right on the spot. And I tell a lot of people, especially if they're just getting started, if anything, you don't even talk numbers on your initial phone call first. Focus on learning how to ask questions, how to find if they're truly motivated or not, or what their problems are, so that, we all know if there's a problem, we can solve it because we create value and that's how we get paid. So how do you keep a seller on ice where they will actually wait for you as opposed to feel like you don't know what you're talking about or you're not ready to do business where you don't even sound serious? So what are some transition lines that you use to keep a seller on ice?
Well, I always take the pressure off me and I put it on my partner. So I just say, I have to run this by my partner, if that's okay. And, when can I give you a call back? And it's always good to set up a time when you could call back. But, when you say it's your partner, that kind of takes the pressure off you of making the decision. So, they don't know who your partner is, what their decision process is. So, you don't have to really explain anymore after that, at least for me. Even if I don't have a partner in the particular deal, I'll just always say that, just please let me run this by my partner and give you a call back. And what is a good time to give you a call?
That's a good one. I mean, that's worked since time immemorial. I mean, I remember, some of the oldest courses that I purchased in real estate. Let me touch base with my partner. If you don't have an exact partner, you can always refer to myself or Eric or Bill or anybody on these sessions. Let me touch base with some of my investors or my money guy, and get back to you, because we are, we may have another deal active on the table, or I know we want to move quickly on this, so let me double check and find out so that we can run some numbers, run some comps, and get you an accurate response. Okay? Or I just simply let them know I'm busy and I'm out and about, right? So I want to make sure I get an accurate answer and find out, make some inquiries on whatever their questions is, or if it's about numbers or the pricing, and then get back to them in a timely manner. Liz E is asking here, Eric, if a virtual property under contract is not vacant, how do you schedule showings to ensure the JV partner will do the walkthrough? The seller won't be there, and parties won't cut you out of the deal. So, Liz, maybe I can paraphrase it or rephrase that. How do you ensure that your local acquisition or your joint venture partner isn't going to try to go around you? And how are you handling those deals where it's a rental, tenant occupied property?
Okay, it really depends on the situation, but I would say, in general, I try to work with people I trust. That's number one. If you work with people you trust, then you don't have to worry about those things. But often people are partnering with they have some skin in the game in the deal. Either they help with the marketing, or they may have a buyer, or basically we've explained our partnership so it's clear what's happening. If they're not for sure bringing any marketing money to the table, or if not a potential partnership, I'll pay them, to do the showing, just so that it's clear of what's going on. Because if you don't, then at least a misunderstanding. So I think the best way is to just be clear about what's going on with your partnership, and try to schedule an open house and have everybody there together, and have somebody show. So what I usually do is, I have someone on the ground, and I'll pay usually $100 to take pics, put a lockbox, or if it's showing, that'll include doing some showings. Sometimes less, sometimes more, depending. But the best thing is to build that relationship with that person and make sure that they're clear what their responsibility is.
Nice. Now, what do you look for in a joint venture partner? Are you looking for a guy that has done deals before? How much background research do you do? And I don't know if maybe this has never happened to you before, but has somebody ever tried to, go the shady route and try to, cut you out of the deal? Because that very well can happen if you're not working with the right people. So what do you look for?
Right.
How do you know that these are the right people to work with?
Yeah, good question, and it's actually happened to me a few times. But that was in the early days, and I didn't really have everything structured the right way. So I'll just say, well, that, and also, obviously the people were just, they chose to go that route and make that decision. And I learned from those experiences. So I've had it go both ways. I had it go where, I was bringing a buyer to a deal, and the buyer decides to go around me, and, I got completely cut out of the deal. And when I brought the buyer to the table, no paperwork, and the person I was joint venturing with, they basically just completely just said whatever, because the buyer acted like they didn't know what was going on. They decided to not pay. So I, in general, like to be the person with the contract. Only if I really have that trust do I bring the buyer. And if I am, I make sure I have paperwork in place. I used to do it on the basis of the no paperwork, but now I just make sure that everything is in writing, everything is on paper. And I've had it happen the other way too, where you have somebody involved in the deal, and they go around you and bring their buyer and work out the deal behind your back, and it sucks for sure. So the best thing I could say is try to build a long-term relationship with a partner and have everything clear and in writing. And if you can, make sure that they have skin in the game. Whatever that may be. It could be money for marketing. It could be the long-term arrangement, whatever that is. But for me, I like doing deals where, they may have some money up in the marketing, and we split the marketing, and, we're both on the contract. That way, when everything's going on, they know they're getting part of the deal. If I'm bringing someone else in, I just make sure I have a clear written agreement of what's going to take place. And if it's just them doing groundwork and they don't bring a buyer, I don't feel that justifies someone, getting paid 50% of a deal. So I just pay them flat out. And that could be a realtor, it could be a wholesaler, it could be somebody just starting out. I think the most important thing is just clarity. Clarity and having things already.
Now,
the most important thing.
Nice, nice. So on the what have you found are fair or acceptable joint venture fees? Because it always, it boggles my mind, and it's funny how I'll have a wholesaler who's uh, maybe they run they're closing about 4 to 6 deals a month. They want to partner up with us, but they're only
Your
offering
entry is not valid.
a small percentage of the profits. So, I mean, obviously, if you have,
Right.
if the splits aren't fair, then you set off the relationship wrong, and it's almost like that person is just waiting to jump on board a better opportunity or another wholesaler or investor partner who would
Right.
offer them fair splits. So, what have you found to be a
Right.
fair joint venture split among the parties involved? Is it a flat out 50-50, 80-20? What are the numbers that you found to be pretty effective for these joint venture and virtual wholesale partnerships or deals?
Right. Good question. I really prefer 50-50, whether it's buyer or seller, and build a long-term relationship with that partner. Some people don't do it that way. They feel, well, if you bring the buyer, then you should only get 25% because I did this and this and that. I prefer to say, well, if we're doing a lot of deals together, let's just do everything 50-50. Because, one day they might bring a buyer, one day I might bring a buyer, and, everybody gets paid and it all works out. So I've always been one to do 50-50. Personally, when people start talking that 25% stuff, I don't work with those people. That's just me. And there's been some
So
big
if you
gurus
so
who do that.
yeah, so if you come across an investor who's going to say, "Hey, Eric, we want to do deals with you, and we're offering an 80-20 split," then that's not a scenario you would entertain, unless
So,
they're doing 80% of the work. But ideally, and it sounds like we're on the same page. I mean, 50 to the person
yeah,
that handled the seller side of the acquisition, 50% to the buyer side, and then make some adjustments, right? On
right.
your joint venture deals where your partner has skin in the game and they pay for marketing, do you recommend that
Uh,
those costs are recouped on the front end, or the 50-50 split and then everybody just worries about their costs and investment at that point? What's been pretty effective for you on your joint venture deals and partnerships?
I mean, it really all depends. If it's a situation where I've done it both ways, and I've done it where it's just me who brings the deal and someone else brings the buyer, and I still split it 50-50. But if we are splitting costs, I prefer to do it up front. If it's something long term. But I've done it on the back end also, where I say, well, look, this is what's going to happen. But it's clear that that's what's going to happen before we get involved. I'll say, look, I'll put up the marketing money, but when we close, then we split it. But I prefer the front end for sure.
Got it, got it. Okay, so recoup the marketing expenses or the initial, investment on the front end, and then focus on following
Right,
up on the deals to make up more of the profits. Okay.
right,
What Toya here's asking, because comps is a big thing. Some people seem, they. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think it's mostly self-inflicted. I mean, when you have a belief system that says there's no investor-friendly agent in a territory, you kind of self-manifest that kind of stuff. Where do you get your comps? Are you doing them through an agent? Because obviously you can't hack your way into 6 MLSs without getting flagged for an IP address. So how do you get your
right.
comps on your properties, on your virtual deals?
It varies. I have LLS access in 2 markets, but I also use RealQuest for comps. I use Zillow in the sold section very often for comps as long as they're close by. Trulia is good. FlyCompsNow.com is good for cash comps. MLS is always great, but if I can't get it, I go with the other ones. But it really depends. I mean, sometimes it could be the tax assessment value, depending on the market. Sometimes a lot of investors use that in certain markets. So it's usually a combination of all of them, and I just see what's the ballpark range of what's going on, and
Did I
especially cash comps.
Did I hear you correctly that you're getting support in your virtual markets from local agents to get you comps on a property, or is it somebody else that you'll coordinate or try to get those local comps from?
Well, I have access to MLS in 2 markets, so I can do
Okay.
it myself. But I mean, I have used agents in the past to get me comps, but in general, I try not to do that because it's long. So I think it just takes getting a feel, for the market.
Got
But RealQuest is good. RealQuest is good, and you could also just eliminate those properties that have a mortgage and see what with cash for RealQuest comps. And then, of course, there's Zillow, Trulia. Some people I've heard use Redfin. I've used 5.27.14-How-To-Wholesale-Lease-Options. So usually a combination of all of those. I check out everything and see what I find.
Now, you mentioned something really key there, and I want to point that out. If you don't have direct MLS access, you can take a look at tax assessor's value, Zillow, Trulia, Redfin. But like Eric mentioned, he's using multiple sources to verify or get a more accurate number, right? He's not simply going on Trulia or Zillow and using that Zestimate as the after repair value of the property. He'll take a look at numbers from different sources to verify and get a more accurate number, because Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, they are not all available in all markets, or it all depends on the activity of the local market, right? Like with Trulia and Zillow, the more agents and investors post their deals and results on their closed transactions, the more accurate the information tends to be. If nobody's uploading any data, then it's definitely you will need multiple sources, or to coordinate with your local joint venture partner to get intel on pricing in the areas. On some of our deals, when on markets that we do deals virtually, it's something as very simple as a local joint venture partner, and I know Eric can verify this, can tell you in certain zip codes, right, you can just offer $50,000 on the property, and that's the maximum cash offer on anything in that zip code, right? Or they'll tell you, if you're targeting this territory, then here is the ballpark range. If we can get anything within this range, then that would make it a deal. But you will have to coordinate with a local joint venture partner, or an agent who can give you what those cash transactions and numbers will look like. At the very least, guys, you can contact an agent, get a list of cash transactions in a zip code, and that will tell you what cash buyers are paying per square foot. And you can apply that formula when you are calculating your cash offers. Sayaka's asking here, Eric, when you want to go into a new market, right? Like you mentioned, 2 markets that you are testing, experimenting, and going into. What is the team of people that you need before you start the marketing, or before all systems go and you launch that rocket?
Well, I do some research first. I look at the cash sales. I make sure there's enough activity in that market that's going to justify my marketing. That's first. And once it looks like a viable market, I look for people on the ground I can work with, and I get some feedback from realtors, wholesalers, rehabbers. I often visit the market myself to see, just to get a feel. It's like I'm trying to get involved in Cali. I was just in Cali, which is where I met Gil in person a few weeks ago. So, it's also a tax write-off every trip. So I don't always do that, though. There's several markets I haven't been to.
Nice. So you're looking for a market with high activity. You're fishing in the right ponds, right? Whether you do a heat map analysis, or you request the cash deals in the hottest of zip codes, and you'll compare where these cash deals are. Again, that way you don't get stuck with a deal that nobody's interested in. And you did mention earlier, when you launch a direct mail campaign, ideally you want to do a deal within 30 days once that direct mail campaign drops. The longest a seller has come back to your business is about a year later. And, that's why I tell people, when you launch your marketing, start off with Craigslist if you're brand new in month 1. Launch some direct mail in your 3rd week. That way in month number 2, you're talking to direct mail. right? By your third month, you have a nice little follow-up system between Craigslist and your direct mail campaign. So now you are in flow, you are talking to leads, new leads daily, and you're also making some follow-up calls to retest the motivation of other sellers there in your area. What type of CRM tool do you use, Eric? Are you using FreedomSoft, Black Book, HighRise, Act? What do you use to manage your particular leads? Bill here is curious.
I mean, to be honest, I'm still kind of old school, using Google Docs for most of my stuff. But I'm trying to transition into Podio. I'm just having a couple of technical difficulties with it. But I really like Podio. I have used FreedomSoft as well, but I don't like them for lead management because basically, if you ever want to change, all your data goes with them. So I've used Google Docs, so I set up a Google Doc for each market, just a spreadsheet. But Podio is looking like the next place once I get out all the glitches.
Nice. And I mean, would you recommend somebody just starting out? Because I mean, they'll see the sales videos, and I always tell people, guys, all these webinars are designed to sell you on buying the product or the purchase. And sometimes people get caught up in the hype, and they move from practicality and sticking with their budget to, oh my gosh, I really, really, really absolutely need this when they don't. You still use Google Excel spreadsheets. We still use Google in our business to manage our leads. On certain campaigns, we are active on Podio. But again, you don't have to go with some fancy pants software. Chris Chico says it himself. If you can't manage or do this business with a pen and pad, then you're overcomplicating it, right? Now, we use Podio because there's a great follow-up system. It integrates with a lot of software. It's in the cloud. We can use it on our phone. Sean Terry boasts how he manages a 7-figure wholesaling operation from a simple CRM and an iPhone app. And again, all within Podio. But you don't need that, right? Truth be told, there are investors like Eric that still use Google Excel, and it's working just fine for them. It's working just fine for them. Other questions? Go ahead and type it in. Scott, okay, no, just a comment. Who does Eric, okay, so, no, Eric actually makes his calls himself. Eric, how much time do you spend on your real estate business these days? Does it take 10, 12, 14-hour days? You're a virtual wholesaler. You travel and make a business trip and recreational trip out of your virtual wholesaling markets, right? You write it off since you go to the territory, look at a couple houses, and check out the local scene. How much time do you spend on the phones?
It varies, but I'm on the phone every day, at least two to 4 hours a day. But
Did you say 2 to 4 hours?
Yeah, 2 to 4 hours a day.
Nice. So correct me if I'm wrong, but basically your operations now is, and again, this is why I tell you guys, focus on either talking to sellers and your marketing. And at that point, you're going to figure out and find your sweet spot in real estate. Is your strength on the phone? Is your strength on data entry, researching, and marketing campaigns? Because you can be a marketer, a lead generator like Eric, where he's mastered lists, right? The type of real estate lists. He's focused on solely direct mail. He's using postcards with a simple voicemail system. Okay, spending about 2 to 4 hours a day on the phone following up with his sellers, right? When you first started out, Eric, realistically, how many hours did you spend to try to get your business up and running? What are the type of sacrifices and schedule changes that you would do for your business to make this whole thing work, where you're now only just spending 2 to 4 hours a day on the phone?
Right. Well, I'll tell you, when I first started, I did everything wrong because my mentor didn't really give me the best system. He didn't really give me any system. I was essentially just bird dogging for him, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So I kind of was all over the place with my energy, trying to learn every single new course that was out there, trying every product, and also just, writing down every vacant house and call these people, skip trace them, And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think, there's a lot to say for being organized with your time and having just one good mentor who's producing the results you want and following that particular system. But for people who are working a job, for me, I didn't have any real job when I started getting into real estate. I had actually just got laid off, and I was just doing freelancing with music. So I was really just going full throttle with real estate. And it still took me a while. I had several deals fall apart, before my first deal went through. I had a deal where I was supposed to make, 15 grand, and it turned out being a fraudulent seller. Like he was the guy with the same name who got the seller's mail, and I had the buyer lined up, and the whole deal fell apart. So you'll go through those failures, and you just got to kind of push through. A long time to get off tangent, but I would just say, it definitely involves sacrifice for your time. As much time as you could spend talking to sellers, the better. As much time as you could put in getting leads, talking to leads, the better chance you have of closing the deal.
Nice. Now, Eric, I gotta ask you, and I do this with every investor we put on the spot, especially guys that in this day and age. When I first started my business, I spent every waking hour focused on it. Now, if you're working a full-time job, I mean, we always say this on these sessions. If you've got a full-time job, work on your full-time job, work part-time on your business, because it's your business that's going to make your fortunes. It's your job that's going to pay the bills, and that is okay. Some people like Eric had the blessing in disguise of having, that were laid off or found themselves full-time in real estate. And some of you have 9-to-5 jobs that you absolutely hate. Maybe if you change the perspective and learn to appreciate that better, it would take off a whole lot of stress and would give you a different outlook and mindset of what you're currently working on. I had a job when I first got started out. I was a graveyard attendant, a valet graveyard attendant at the time. And so that paid, my rent, that I saved whatever I could on a marketing budget. I don't encourage anybody to automatically just quit their jobs because it does put a whole lot of pressure on you. But you can look at it from a different perspective where you are part-time on your business, but make no mistake, that is where you are going to make your fortune. So Eric, with all that sacrifice, and you were kind of flung into real estate, and maybe you had to work long hours dealing with the stress of just being laid off, is it all worth it, fast forwarding to today, when you only have to work and talk to people or spend 2 or 4 hours on the phone? Was it worth all that initial sacrifice to get to where you are now and the type of virtual wholesaling and business model that you've been able to carve out for yourself? Was it all worth it?
Oh, of course. I mean, I own my time. I make my own schedule. Like, that's priceless. And the more I outsource, the more time I have. So I have a lot of stuff outsourced in terms of data stuff. So that helps me have a lot more time. So the main thing I'm doing is processing leads, for the most part. And a lot of stuff I get outsourced on the ground for these markets. So, there's people who are doing a lot more labor, and if you're doing local stuff, that's good too. But it really all depends how you want to live your life. Like, I'm trying to outsource even more, so eventually have more time. So I would just say, it's worth the sacrifice, 100%, for sure.
Now, with that in mind, and we'll transition out here of the technical stuff. I mean, what's your why? Why are you doing all this? Why do you continue to run the business, to scale it and grow it? What's your why?
Great question. My why, and it's actually been changing, but my general why is freedom. Freedom. But I didn't want to go back to a job. That was like the last thing I wanted to do. I was torn between trying to get a job and do real estate, but it was just like the last thing I wanted to do. So I really just put 100% effort there, and that's been a big motivating factor. Just my freedom of time. Freedom of not being a victim of someone else's decisions. Freedom to live my vision of life, to pursue my purpose, what I want to do in life, and that can really grow, when you have control of your own business. versus, someone else is dictating your life, your schedule, your work. So that's the biggest, my vision, my purpose.
Are you married with kids, Eric? I mean, just curious. Do you have like a family? Is it just you?
I don't,
What's the?
no kids, no marriage. I have a girl I'm dating, but that's not it right now.
Gotcha.
So
All right.
that's not my why yet.
All right. What's been the coolest thing you've been able to do, right? As an entrepreneur and all the sacrifice and the hard work you've put in, what are some of the ways you've been able to treat yourself, your family, what are some of the rewards that have come about, from your business ventures and your real estate deals?
Well, I would say, I'm not rich yet, so I haven't done anything crazy extravagant. But, I am able to do this full time. I'm able to travel when I want to travel, which has been the greatest thing for me. I travel like pretty much every month or every other month, going somewhere. So that's been the greatest thing, I would say.
When you're not doing deals, right, or when you're not working on your business, you're actually a DJ. So you do have passions and hobbies, and it's not just all about real estate. What else what else keeps you motivated and interested so that you can stay in the game? What are your other interests that keep you excited about being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I still do music. I mean, I was doing music for 10 years before I got involved in real estate, so that's always kind of there. It's definitely more in the background. I just do it more for fun these days. I mean, I love music. I love learning about anything. So, whether it's spirituality, health, things like that, and just trying to continue education, just keep on learning, and figure out how to invest my money wisely.
What do you have a real estate license? Tim here is asking.
I don't.
No real estate. Ever plan on getting one by any chance? Just curious.
Right now, I don't have any plans on getting one. Maybe one day down the line, I'm doing a bunch of rehab that I want to sell by myself and get the commission. I might consider it, but right now, no.
Nice. Now, any recommendations on good reading material for somebody that's just started out that really helped you, right? Whether it's motivational, marketing, leadership, personal development. What book and podcast can you recommend?
Good question. There's a ton out there. I would say, although it's not directly related to wholesaling, all the Rich Dad books are really great. There's a lot of stuff in there about mindset, and that's really important. And it's also about freedom, realizing the freedom of having your own business and moving from the different levels of your business and eventually becoming financially free. So, all the Rich Dad series are great. Anything by Tony Robbins is great. This guy, Eric Thomas, E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher, has a couple of books that are really inspiring. I just met him at an event, and I got both of his books, and I really love them. What else? There's a book. For starting out, I would just say for wholesaling, before I talk about everything I'm reading now, I would say if you haven't gotten the Chris Chico book, that's definitely, or his course, his wholesale course, it's definitely a good starter book. Preston Eli has a decent wholesaling book. It's kind of dated, in my opinion, in terms of his marketing strategies, but his story and his development, his mindset, I think is very good for that. So those I would recommend, and I can't think of anything else right now.
Nice. Susie here is asking, if you don't have access to the MLS, how do you find out if there are a lot of cash sales in a local market, right?
Well, you can always ask a realtor. That's one way. And you can always get a list from me. And then I can research it for you. Or, there's different software out there, such as Freedom Soft, where you can, research things. So I would say first thing is definitely a realtor, if you can.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't, there's software. I also sell lists, those kind of lists, and
I mean,
I try to target.
to get a realtor to send you a list of cash transaction in the county or zip codes, I mean, that's something that you can get for free, right? I mean, it's not even something you have to pay for, or are these realtors charging you to be able to do that?
I just try to build a relationship with a realtor, and explain to them, what you're doing as an investor, that you're marketing, or if I've already done some marketing, I'll give them some leads off the bat. I'll say, hey, this is a potential short sale, or this is a potential retail deal. Do you want to trade some leads for MLS access? And that's worked for me. And of course, just building rapport, being friendly, building that relationship. But yeah, I would say try to bring them something first. Always think of the other person first. So if you have some leads that look like you can't wholesale, you can't lease option, sub-2, give them to a realtor. Let's say, look, if you get a deal, let's just split the fee or give you a finder's fee of whatever you agree on, $500, if they can get it listed and get it sold.
Nice. Yeah, and again, a small flat rate fee, something paid out on the back end. Don't try to gouge the realtor and ask for 50% of their commission right off the bat. That's like asking somebody to marry you before you take them out on a proper date. Start out slow. If anything, what I look for is just being able to refer leads to them, and I want to see that they're working it. Right? Because there's no point in trying to negotiate and spend hours trying to get 50% of somebody else's money if we can't see or get confirmation that they are working the leads. Now, when I see an agent or any person I'm referring leads to, when I know they are working the leads in a consistent manner, I know they're going to do deals from it because we're marketing consistently, so we're constantly sending referrals, so it's only a matter of time. And that person, that agent, broker, or other investor, anybody you're referring it over to, will tend to realize that as well. They'll come to the conclusion and they'll start to learn, hey, you know what, these leads are, I'm getting leads coming to me consistently. Obviously, some are good, some are bad. That's the nature of the game. But, if I can get this constant stream of leads, then, maybe I should consider working with Eric closely, or at least, see how else we can build a relationship, because this could be a nice little potential long-term relationship and ongoing repeat business coming your way. Eric, on some of your virtual markets, I know you're average about 5 to 10 deals. What let's say on your virtual market, what are the types of goals you set on a yearly basis for that virtual market? Are you looking to make 10K, 50K, 60K? What's the goal that you set for a new market? How much money in wholesaling fees are you looking to generate from a virtual market that you go into?
I honestly didn't set my goals that way. I just want overall, my thing is this, if I'm doing at least one deal in every market, I'm in, that's 6 deals a month, right? If I get that to 2 deals in every market, then that's 12 deals. So if it's a combination of I do one or 2 in another, whatever it is, as long as that momentum is going, I'm basically just looking for momentum, trying to get consistent deals done. As far as I have an overall dollar amount that I'm trying to get to in the 6 figures, but I didn't set a particular goal for every market. My goal is just to get deals done, no matter what the fee is.
Nice. And operationally wise, okay, so instead of a model, so you're focusing more on deal number, and in your operations right now, you're looking at 2 to 6 deals per month with the type of marketing you're doing and the momentum that you've built in. And again, this is carrying over even into the very first 12 months of Eric's operation where, hey, there were several deals that fell through, but the constant follow-ups got him to this point, right? So let's not forget all that. Some people only see the operation, or they see what the results that we kind of do right now where, yes, Eric's doing about 6 deals a month, 2 to 6 per month in terms of volume. but there was that very first year where several deals and even possibly more did not go through. So make sure you take a look at that whole picture and really understand it. An entrepreneur will always pay their dues, whether now or later. It's only a matter of time. And I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves because they only see that, Eric's now 2 to 6 deals per month wholesaling in 6 different markets. But they miss the part where, we all started with 0 deals per month and purely focused on the marketing side. Any other last tips, Eric? Anything you wanted to close this session out with on for the investors we have here that are brand new in their operations or
Sure.
just getting started? What can you say to these guys as a parting message to whether to keep them motivated or to provide some really good tips to keep in mind, especially relevant to where they're at in the business?
Good question. I would just like to say, well, thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me. But one of the things that you're going to encounter, and you just got to embrace, is failure, and is things not working out the way you want them to. You might have a failed mail campaign. You might have that great deal that falls through. You might have that shady person that tries to screw you on a deal, and just push through those things and learn from it. A lot of people will quit when they get one stumbling block, and just push through that because it's on the other side of the road where, the magic starts to happen. I mean, once I got my first deal done, I really started dropping bigger mail campaigns, and I was able to do consistent deals after that. Until I got my first deal done, it was nothing but constant struggle and sacrifice. So you just focus on the process. Focus on becoming a better wholesaler, a better seller on the phone. I mean, like salesperson, being able to talk to people, and just understanding the business. Focus on that. Some people just focus on the money, and I think that's a mistake. They say, well, I got to make this much in this amount of time, or I'm going to quit. And I think that's a big mistake because, number one, you never know what you're dealing with in terms of the seller or the buyer. But number two, you really don't know what you're doing yet if you're just starting. So I would just say just focus on getting great at the process. So I learned that from Chris Chico, and I think it applies to like pretty much everything. Don't focus on the money. Just focus on the process.
Nice. Just out of curiosity, most number of deals you've closed in a month, like your biggest month volume-wise on wholesale deals?
My biggest month, well, to be honest, I'm not doing crazy volume just yet. So, I say 6 markets, but I honestly don't hit the six deals a month yet. Like I know you're saying 2 to 6. It varies. I mean, I think my biggest month where I had closing was 4, and that was last year. But I'm working that up. My thing is, I'm getting to the point where everything is falling into place every month because sometimes things don't close when you want to. Sometimes deals fall apart. As long as I have multiple contracts and multiple things in the works, I know they'll close at some point or they'll fall apart at some point. But I just focus on getting them closed. So sometimes something you think that'll close one month ends up closing the following month and things like that. So
Nice.
Not at that point
So
where I'm doing
four
super volume.
deals.
Just keep.
Yeah. And what can you say for those that are at the stage in the business where they are doing multiple deals and you're at that? It's great to catch you at this point in your career, at this point in your success journey where, you just started in 2010. Your most number of deals that you've done is 4. And to do 4 deals a month, guys, you've got to be bringing in multiple contracts per month, right? So just think about that for a second, and how many contracts that somebody who's doing deals virtually can get to that 4 transactions a month. It's hard enough for somebody locally to do it, but again, to do it virtually, it's a different dynamic. It's a different beast. What's your message for those that are looking to scale their business where you're at right now? now, and you've gotten systems in place. I've taken a look at the business model, the type of marketing you're doing, and it's definitely going to be some exciting times for you in terms of increasing your volume. So for those looking to double their production or really scale their operations, what can what's your message for them? Whether it's from what you've learned personally or very useful practices that you've implemented, what can you say to that crowd that we have on these sessions who are in a similar situation business-wise?
Yeah, I would just say, find something that works and just duplicate it, whatever that might be. If you're trying to scale, that's basically what I'm doing. I find out what's working in one market, system that works there, and just duplicate it somewhere else. And just try to outsource as much as possible.
Now, you mentioned something really key there. Obviously, if it's working, scale it. In order for you to know what's working, you will need to track your markets, your marketing, how many units you send out, how many people call back. And Eric knows his numbers. And to get to that point, guys, you have to test. You have to send stuff out from a marketing standpoint so that you can figure out, out of 1,000 units of direct mail in this territory, you will do a deal, right? But to get to that point, you have to be able to send out your marketing so that you can analyze and and effectively track your numbers. Tim Birmingham says, thanks, Eric. You're one righteous dude. Toya says, thanks, Gil and Eric, for an awesome session, as always. And it looks like if you guys love the session today, if you enjoy it, type it in the GoToWebinar control panel. Let us know. And, of course, this is the kind of feedback that I send out to any of the guys that we have on these sessions. As well. Thank you so much for coming on, Eric. I know in between all the virtual markets that you're in, the traveling that you're doing, and just scaling the operations, obviously that keeps you very busy. So I definitely appreciate you coming on board and taking the time to hang out with us here this morning.
I appreciate you. I appreciate it a lot, man.
Very cool.
Thanks
very
for having
cool.
me.
Scott F says, thanks for all the info. Great. Mike M says, thanks very much, guys. Go ahead, Eric.
Can I give one shout out for my site?
Yeah, definitely. We always want to close out the session. If you guys want to, again, Eric's got access to lists that, are unique. There's some trade secrets that he has personally found and dug up from his, his experience. He's a master at picking up these lists. So Eric, to get more information about you, your podcast, and buying lists from you, how do they get in touch with you?
Sure. For my list, go to flipthisrealestatelyst.com or email me at flipthisrealestatelyst@gmail.com. And I do have a podcast, as Gil mentioned. I'll be having some killer calls. I'll actually be interviewing Gil next month, so turn the tables. But you can check out flipsidemastermind.com. I have Chris Chico up there. I have Daniel Wiafi, who just got his show, his House Flipping show. And I have Lou Padilla, who he's a master of Sub 2. So it's a pretty good podcast, also on iTunes. But you can go to your site and check that out and get a free ebook and a free postcard template. Hello?
Awesome. No, I was just waiting there, make sure the audio had kicked in, came out loud and clear, so fantastic. Noah says, great info, thanks a lot for sharing. And really, guys, we... our goal here as part of Wholesaling Lease Options, marketing done for you, this whole site, everything that we do here is to share and show you guys what's working. And realistically, hearing from active wholesalers in the trenches, and sometimes and mostly there isn't any fancy stuff going on. And that's what I do appreciate and enjoy. It's because it puts things on a practical level, right, where you can get your mind around it, grasp the concepts, and apply it. We like to keep it simple. Eric still runs his operation right off of a Google Excel file to track and manage his leads, right? No need for the big fancy stuff. So Eric, thank you again. And do email me your contact info so I can post it here on our site for anybody that wants to pursue or, get more information on the type of lists that you have access to from a direct mail standpoint. So thank you again, Eric. Do appreciate it. And I'll close out the session with this, guys. Let me just recap some of the items that we had talked about, not only today, but a couple other reminders for you guys that are on this session as well. So give me a second here. The replay on the 23rd has been posted. Yesterday's replay will go live, but we did post our session here on the 23rd, which is Friday. We covered multiple scenarios and questions from our members that log in to check out these daily training sessions. So fantastic and some really good stuff. There is a website link from that session, and that is a tool to record all of your voice calls. All right, for your personal training and business purposes only, right? For your training purposes, do check that out. So the link is there. On today's session, we had Eric Infinite Torrente, avid DJ and musician, spends 2 to 4 hours a day making some phone calls, and a virtual wholesaler, right? Just like a lot of you here in this program. Whether you're Property Scout or Bird Dog, right? I think it all sounds like we've all have a common denominator there. We all started from a blank sheet, started talking to people, applying some marketing techniques. I will have all of these notes and questions typed in or at least transferred over when we post the replay. It will go live within about 12 to 24 hours, along with more information on Eric's site and where to contact him to purchase these types of lists, which are unique. And again, stuff that he's carved out and strategies that are very unique to his operations that's allowed him to do this kind of stuff. Lots of good feedback here. Thank you again to everybody. And where is this site? Awesome. Yeah, I'll type it in, but definitely lots of good stuff. And I will copy paste all these comments. They make great after session posts and testimonials. So thank you again, Eric, for jumping on these sessions. We will check in with you in a couple months to see how much more the business has grown. You are one of the accountabilities that I have, and keeps me on my toes to make sure we put out good stuff and we do more deals. We lead by example here with all of the investors and subscribers that we have. So thank you again for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate you.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day.
We'll see you on the next live session. We go live tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We may cut the session. It all depends on what we've got going on that day. We did go over today, but I think well worth it taking a look at the feedback here from the group. So with that, guys, my name is Gil, and for your daily wholesaling